Hello everybody and welcome to our webinar today on recruiting rookies. This is Pat Sherlock, and for those that are new to our webinar series, I'll be sharing my company's research and best practices from our clients in mortgage banking. My company QFS helps managers resolve their sales problems from high turnover to low productivity. Our assessments and training programs are science-based, which separates us from other companies in the industry. Today's topic is the critical topic of recruiting rookies. I'm going to cover what works in the recruiting side. I know you're busy, so I'm sharing with you what really matters on this important issue. Why should we have rookies? We're going to talk about the keys to a successful program, the best practices, and today's takeaway. So let's look at why rookies. Rookies are increasingly a very hot topic in mortgage banking for the very fact that the average age of our loan officer is 54 years old. And this is just the data that was given from Rob Chrisman's recent blog. So when you add in the factor that many originators really haven't updated their selling model, and I see this for sure when I'm consulting, I certainly see a large number of originators with really not many referral sources, which is really obviously not good. So it's really no wonder that managers are concerned about their sales force and how we're going to replace the top producers. Currently, what's going on in the industry, which I do not have to tell you, there's an overpayment component just to get producers in. So when you look at that issue and then you couple that with not just the age and the selling techniques that older originators pursue, but when you look at the buyer's process, it's much different today. And it's very clear that we need originators that really not just know their own product, but can resolve customers' needs very quickly. Customers self-educate before they make that initial phone call, something much different than what was done in the past. And finally, the whole issue of growing your own really does have to do with the cultural match side of it. That doesn't happen when you rent originators, as we all know. So the answer lies in investing in rookies and looking at rookies as a growth strategy. So there are three parts to a successful rookie program. My company has done these programs over the years, and what we have learned are these three components. And certainly, the reality of it is that it really kind of dovetails into having a strong recruiting and selection program, which is what we're going to focus on today, a systematic training component, which is either formal or informal, which will be a future webinar, and finally the coaching component, which is continuing the learning plan. So again, we'll focus on the recruiting side of it because it's such a critical part for the success of these programs, and we'll talk in later webinars on these other issues that I've already mentioned. There are 5 practices that I would call for action steps in interviewing rookies. And let's start with the pipeline dynamics. We're going to talk about that in a second. That's for sure number 1. Second is the filtering process that you have to have in place. Third is the interviewing sequence, and we'll talk about that. And fourth is certainly the personality traits. And fifth are some additional types of questions that you have to be asking rookies that you don't ask veterans who have a pipeline. So let's look at the pipeline dynamics. Rule number 1 for a rookie program is certainly this issue that you need to have a funnel that has to be large. For the simple reason, whether you're looking at candidates that are just from college or you're looking from candidates that only have worked a few years, you have to look at a large number of them because they have not really nailed down their career path. They're not sure about mortgage, and I know that Ben and Bill are going to talk about this topic. So number 1, the pipeline dynamics really are functionally have to be driven by casting a wide net. That's definitely your first step. And this requires, obviously, a corporate commitment to consistent recruiting. It's not something where you just decide today, I'm going to go and get rookies. It really is a consistent recruiting program. And really, all avenues have to be tapped. There's not one sure thing. And that starts from career sites to job fairs to really your own employees being a referral source for you. This is especially a pretty strong issue where someone that has worked for you and loves working there is certainly someone that could tap into the rookies and bring them to your company. The pipeline needs to be large, and that's the important point. It's not the issue that we see typically in mortgage banking, where we see a couple veterans and we, in essence, are making a selection from one or two people. Rookies are different. You have to funnel in a large way. Because of the large funnel, we come to point number 2, which is lenders have to automate and filter the funnel. And this requires really the issue of incorporating some different processes than you might not have done with veterans. One of them is certainly what we see a lot of our clients using are video interviewing systems, things that we actually encourage our clients to use. And obviously from a pre-hire assessment component, that is a must. You're now investing in a training program, and you really have to make sure that you have the right person in the seat. So starting these programs without an active filtering process, including pre-hires, is really a big mistake. And when you look at the pre-hire side, which we'll talk in a little bit more, again, with rookies, you're not looking at pipelines, and so you really have to making a judgment on that individual. Are they having the sales talent, and are they matching to your company? So if you would like to hear more about pre-hire assessments, certainly just let me know. When you're interviewing and conducting this interview, because of the 3 parts that we've already kind of talked about, the face-to-face interview is really about, do they have the sales talent? The second issue is, do they have self-discipline? And the third issue is, are they a cultural fit? And certainly the first issue of the sales talent can be identified through the pre-hire assessment. That really is the purpose of the pre-hire assessment, is looking internally in the individual and making a predictive assessment of whether they match to what we are requiring in mortgage origination. The second part of the self-discipline is really also a factor that is identified in the pre-hire side of it, but it also has to do with the types of questions you are asking those individuals about their self-discipline, because again, mortgage origination, you have to be systematic and structured, and that is a function of being disciplined. And finally, the cultural fit of it. We had a webinar in the past, and you might want to look at it at one of our podcasts that's on my site of www.patsherlock.com, where we talked about cultural fit. And certainly what I would tell you, that if the person has the talent, if the person has the self-discipline, but they are not a cultural fit, or they do not buy into your culture, then I would tell you that is somebody that you would not hire and put into your program. So again, cultural fit can be determined through either an assessment that's specifically designed for that, which if that's something you're interested in, we can actually talk about it because we have one, or it's an issue of how you have asked the questions to the interview to identify what does that person value, and does that match with what you're valuing. And again, every mortgage company is different, and so what you value is basically reflective of your culture. So when you look at, again, in the interview process, what are you looking for during the interview? Well, you're looking for a combination of relationship skills and drive skills. The relationship skills are fairly easy to identify, and what we have found are part of the 9 personality traits that predict sales success is that the relationship side is all about, does the person, social is all about, does that person like to help other people? Again, that's what you're looking for during the interview. The assertive personality trait is all about, does that person have a need to persuade? Right? That's not being obnoxious. That's being, when the person has presented an issue, that this is someone that will come back. Obviously, being optimistic, Being a listener, that's really what low expressiveness is about, and then being positive about people. Mortgage origination, you need to be positive about people, and that is for sure. So the relationship side are a composition of those 5 traits, but the real critical part that has to be determined is the drive component. When you're not there, is that individual going to do the right thing and is going to be someone that's going to be active every day from a mortgage origination standpoint? Well, drive's all about being a self-starter. And you need to look at that at the rookie. Likewise, you're still looking at that from the veteran origination standpoint. So those qualities are crucial. And that's the faction of really identifying self-reliance. It's looking at, is this person resilient? In other words, when the person gets turned down, as we all know, in mortgage sales, we have to have that ability to come back. Well, that's what the resilient trait's about. Certainly the energetic trait. To be a good salesperson, to be an above-average salesperson, you have to be better than the normal person is with energy. High sales folks are all people that have high energy levels. So having average energy level really is not going to be a successful trait for a mortgage originator. They need to have high energy. And finally, follows through and focus is all about the personality trait of staying focused and completing that task. Top originators are very focused people, and that's a trait that the rookie needs to have also. So these 9 traits that we've shown in this slide are really a composition of relationship skills and drive skills. And when you're looking at investing in a rookie, they need to have all 9 of them. Likewise, a veteran originator also needs to have these 9 traits. And the 5th action step, as far as rookies are concerned, that are a little bit different than what you're asking with veteran originators, is this issue of also talking about, again, they don't have a pipeline, so they can't be talking about referral sources that they already have. They can't be talking about, again, what real estate agents they know. These are going to be individuals who do not have that background, but we know that they need to be good at their time management. They have to be problem solvers. And of course, I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my favorite questions to ask when interviewing rookies. On the time management side, one of the questions that I think is really a great question is to have the individual candidate talk about how they organize their day. How do they set priorities? Even as a college student or even someone that has just worked a few years, they have these traits of behaviors of showing that their day is an organized day. Every top originator that's ever been interviewed that I've done at this point, thousands of them within mortgage banking, they will tell you about their day. Their day is very organized and structured. Well, that's the same thing that's shown early with a college student or also with somebody that just started to work. The next issue, and part of what I've already talked about before, is problem solving. Again, just because they're in college or they're just beginning to work, you're trying to focus on questions that will really identify that the person, when they get a problem, how do they resolve it, and how was this done in relationship with maybe a group? Maybe they participated on a group study. They were put into a group of 4 or 5 different people. There's always going to be problems. In other words, you want to identify how did they handle that and what was their thought process. If they just walked away from the group, well, that would not be a good sign because you're wanting individuals. As we know, mortgage banking is a team effort. You're going to work with people that may not be exactly like yourself. Or the other issue is you're going to work with people that don't actually think like you think. So you're wanting to see from the candidate that they have this problem-solving ability and that they use it and then they recognize it. And certainly those are the types of questions that you would really be wanting to incorporate in your interview process. And of course, my personal favorite is, why do you want to work for us? It might seem like a simplistic question, but it really is a pretty good indicator of, has the person looked into your company? Has this person really talked to other originators? That one question tells you a lot about the candidate, and it does say a lot about how their preparation and planning is done, because this is a career that requires you to do some investigation. So again, these are three or four questions that I think you should incorporate and would recommend be part of your interview process, because again, you're not looking at a pipeline, you are really having to look at the individual and what that person is about. And especially with a limited work background, you're going to have to delve really deeply on kind of the components that they should have already developed prior to your interview. So today's takeaway is recruiting rookies successfully does require a real corporate commitment to structure a recruiting program. Again, because of the large amount of people that you're looking at, because they have not decided on a mortgage career path, it's really important that the corporation be behind this initiative. So why don't we open it up for any questions through the chat feature. It's on the right-hand side. Certainly list any questions. We received one today from Sarah, and she asked the all-important question that I'm always asked about is, what's the break-even point between a rookie and someone who is a veteran or someone that has been pirated from another company? Well, Sarah, that's the age-old question, and to tell you, we have looked at this from an analytical standpoint, and I think you'll be surprised at the numbers that I'm going to share with you today. When you look at a veteran, and if you've had to pay a guarantee, you've had to buy out their pipeline, you have the ramp-up component, the actual break-even point for most originators is somewhere around 12 months. So when you look at a rookie that you have invested in, trained, started them in the world of origination, the break-even point is really just not that much different. It's roughly around 13 months. So from an investment standpoint, your return is actually not that much different between a rookie when you look at it all in on all the things that you have to pay from a cost standpoint, and then when you look at someone that you're training, your way of how you want sales techniques to be performed, and also matching to your culture, it definitely gives you pause for thought, because I think the stereotype within mortgage banking is that that return is a long, drawn-out process. And the most important point that I would say, Sarah, is that one thing that we've seen from a retention level is that people that you have trained stay with you, and this is the important data point, 40% longer than those that are rented and come to you and move on when someone else really has offered them a few basis points more. Again, so the retention component is significantly better by people that you have grown yourself. And really the break-even point is not that significantly different. If you would be interested in my weekly sales blog on important issues within mortgage banking, certainly sign up. And if you're looking for the previous podcasts, they are on the site www.patsherlock.com. I do want to make an announcement that we are going to be starting a weekly radio program about sales issues. This will be starting in May, and so we're real excited about that, and certainly I will keep you posted on what we are doing with that. Any questions, certainly let me know, and certainly have a great day today.